Welcome to NC Political Tea, the show where North Carolina's political scene gets served piping hot, grassroots style. We're here to shake up the status quo with unapologetically conservative takes and a whole lot of Southern charm. From the halls of Congress to under the dome, we're exposing the deals, the drama, and the dirt that the mainstream media won't touch. Who's fighting for your freedom? Who's selling out to the woke mob? And who's about to get roasted? No fluff, no filters, and absolutely no time for spineless politics. Just bold Republican commentary, sharp analysis, and enough sass to make the left squirm. So grab your sweet tea or something stronger, and let's dive into the hottest headlines and juiciest scandals rocking the Tar Heel State. This is NC Political Tea, where the truth always gets served.
Yes, indeed. It always gets served.
We're back.
Bye. We're back, baby.
We took a break. We got ourselves back in the shape we want to be in, and here we are again.
That's right. Happy 2025, my dear.
Happy New Year. Mazel tov.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. How was your New Year?
It was good. It was good. I had a great holiday. I got to go to AmFest out in Phoenix and hang out with a bunch of folks and get to see some good speakers and learn some things, which is always good. And then spent Christmas with the fam, and now here we are.
Very nice. Nothing like getting pumped up after the election, right? Get pumped up and then get brought down on New Year's Day or New Year's Eve with all this stuff. But we'll get on to that. New intro, everybody.
We had to take the 2024 off of it.
Had to revamp. We're going to be on more platforms. Right now, we're just on the X platform. But, Facebook, or Mark Zuckerberg came out today. He had a buff body, had his Jufro going, let his hair grow out, had a long statement that basically said the jury's in. X does it better than we do. We're going to stop censorship. We're going to try to go on the Facebook platform. We'll be on there later tonight and then tomorrow. Still on YouTube, but I don't know. Do you believe him?
No. No, and I think it's interesting that he picked Dana White to be on his board. I think this is just a way of trying to compete. I don't believe him in any way, shape, or form. And I'll give you my best example. If he really means it, then put Pam McNabb, Peyton's mom, who does nothing but circulate Peyton's content.
Tell us who this is. Tell us more.
Pam McNabb. Peyton McNabb is the young lady here in Western North Carolina who was hit in the head with a volleyball by a trans athlete and is permanently injured. And her mother is her biggest advocate, and she just was reposting something on Facebook and got permanently deleted. So if you really use it, bring it back.
Yeah, I haven't used it in forever because, I've been shadow banned, and so there's nothing like telling creators like us, come create your product, etc., and then you get the rug pulled out from under you. So all that is to say, guys, you can find this as of later tonight on Margot's page. You can find it on my Facebook page, Sloan Rackmith, and we're going to give it a whirl. We're going to create an NC Political Tea Facebook page just to beta test it and see if they're going to ban us. Because if they'll ban anyone, it's going to be us.
We're going to take him to the test, aren't we?
We're going to take him to task. Yeah. We're going to put it to the stress test. So let's get right at the point with what's going on right now. We had some great victories in the state. We're going to go over that in a second. Obviously, Trump won, but Biden is doing everything that he can to completely destroy the country. People see him as just an old, pathetic, dithering old man. He's Satan incarnate.
It's really scary. I think all of us are waiting for the next shoe to drop every day just to see what he does, from crowning Hillary with some medal, which now he's really made these presidential medals medals of freedom. He's made them worthless when you look at who he's offered them to. And I think, honestly, what we've learned through this last 4 years and what we've been through is we put too much emphasis on reward.
That's a great take, and not on merit.
Correct.
And I think the Democrats will, I mean, they have beclowned and besmirched every institution. That includes, I mean, the Pulitzer Prizes are total shit. The Nobel Peace Prize. I mean, whatever it is, if leftists are in charge of, the worst, most heinous people on the face of the earth will be awarded those things. So it's not surprising that we saw people like, and we'll get to that, like George Soros, I think got one. Hillary Clinton got one. Let's go ahead and put that up. Actually, one of our good buddies got one. Do you remember the guy? What was his name? Chef.
Oh, guy. Is that Jewel or whatever his name is?
Right. This grifter,
the guy who hangs out with terrorists.
That doesn't everyone these days, if you're a Democrat, after all. So this
that guy does for sure.
Yeah, this guy, I think it was Obama's chef, the one that actually survived, and Harris's chef. And
chef.
Right, and we caught him grifting during the election, during the storm, in Asheville, and doing some absolute BS tweeting, saying that FEMA's here, they're doing a wonderful job, and just misinformation, disinformation. So he got a Nobel Peace Prize. This Satanist, this utter POS that stole from Holocaust victims.
You gotta get that off the screen. I feel like I'm looking at Jimmy Carter. I'm just kidding. You know what I mean? How they look so terrible.
They are. This is not a man who's aged gracefully. This is Satan, and his counterpart,
and his wife.
Yeah, right.
You know, wait, look at her ears. Does she truly have her ear gauges in?
I'm not seeing what you're saying.
Maybe they're just big earrings.
I'm not. Yeah, I'm not saying. And then this total clown. Who is this guy?
Bill Nye, who calls himself the science guy, although his really what he did is he made training videos at Boeing. That was his big shtick. And then he did go to Cornell. I will give him some credit for going to a good school, but he was never really a science guy.
Well, Cornell's not a real Ivy.
Published, scientist. He's just a guy he's the Mr. Rogers of science.
Well, he's an incredible leftist.
Yeah, he also got caught chasing his girlfriend in his underwear once when he was going after her in the front yard. True story.
Yeah.
Weirdos, all weirdos.
Yeah, they are. But again, if you should expect nothing less, guys, when we're talking about Democrats giving awards, they're going to be to their friends. I mean, the only one that I agree with is Denzel Washington. He's become a pastor now.
Yeah, I saw he got baptized recently.
Yeah, there's a couple of them that I agree with. I think Magic Johnson, I know what people think, he's a leftist, etc. Hell of a player.
And listen, he left, the basketball, went in and became an entrepreneur, survived a disease that almost no one survives magically because he's Magic Johnson. He had HIV.
His Johnson is magic, I guess. Sorry.
Listen, he's done good things for young people too. I mean, he's
done a lot in LA, and so there's a couple, but again, when leftists are in charge of anything, it typically goes south very quickly and deadly. So what Biden has done that's extremely dangerous is he's let out 11 terrorists. Keeping
he lets out 11 terrorists, and at the same time takes out warrants for 200 J6ers.
Exactly. So we have an Islamic terror attack, as we knew would be coming, sadly, on the New Year's Eve in New Orleans, an Islamist who's dedicated himself to doing this. And then Biden turns right around and cedes the battlefield, guys. That means he makes it easier. He sends the message that it's okay to do this. And by the way, the recidivism rate for terrorists, we know this from Israel, is 100%. Sinwar was released, and actually the Israelis, helped him with his cancer, rehabilitated him in prison, got out, and he did October 7th. What you're looking at now is this guy is Al-Kamimi, bragged that he could raise $100,000 in the U.S. at any mosque in 30 minutes. And Muslims could turn around and use that to bomb installations. By the way, innocent civilians, and a lot of them Muslims a lot of times in the US. This guy, very handsome devil, right? Can't pronounce his name. Probably Mohammed, vowed that if he were ever released, listen to me, guys, that he would kill Americans and come to America and fly another plane. Biden just released him to Oman, Jordan. Jordan is a hotbed of terrorism.
Why would Jordan take them, though, Sloan? Why does Jordan take them?
Jordan is a hotbed of terrorism. That's why they thrive on this. You're going to have some countries that will take them. You won't find Saudi Arabia taking them, very likely Egypt, Jordan, and Turkey in particular. I'm surprised they didn't take them. Qatar is always a top destination. So this guy, by the way, was released. He had foreknowledge of 9/11. He helped plan it. And he's recorded saying, remember the danger of the airports. If it comes off, it will be in all the world's papers. And there's literally, as Daniel Greenfeld from Front Page Magazine points out, there's no terrorist that the Democrats don't love.
That's true. They breed them. And homegrown. I mean, we know right here in North Carolina, in Charlotte, for sure, they're supporting terrorism.
We do. And there have been
governor's office. No, attorney general.
Well, it was the governor's office. So we've got if you've been on my Twitter feed, you know that I've been raising hell. There's an Islamist, and I say that because she's from her Twitter feed. You can tell that she is observant to Islamist. And she has been posting, get this, guys, while our 2 American hostages from North Carolina, that would be Keith and Aviva Siegel, were being held by Hamas, very likely tortured. She was tweeting that Israel should not and does not deserve to defend itself and to find the hostages. She was working for Josh Stein. Now, don't let Josh Stein's religion fool you. There are left-wing Jews who don't like Jews and who prefer Islamists. Josh Stein's one of them. And that's
really scary, though, because if we can pick up on that just on a Twitter feed and through her posts, what else is in the government that we don't know about? Our government, our state government.
Well, we're going to do a little digging. I will tell you, neither Jeff Jackson nor Josh Stein has ever talked about Islamic terror. They have, I think Josh Stein maybe said one time in passing something about anti-Semitism. It's flat out not an issue. Therefore, if we're going to make it an issue, you better believe when you're planning terror attacks on our soil, at our universities, and we're paying for this for taxpayer dollars, we're going to have to do something.
And we need to make sure North Carolinians are aware what's around them, all the way up here in Asheville even. You know, I had no idea that there were terrorists this far up, but there are.
Really?
Yeah. They've been spotted in Asheville. I'm sure it's a migrating path, you know, between Charlotte and Asheville.
The universities. Yeah, I'm sure it's the universities. But we're going to keep an eye on that. And I'm going to get to that at the end of the show. And I'm going to have a special show tomorrow night I'll tell you about with a former Muslim from Jordan, actually, who is going to talk to us about, and we all have this question, right? We have good Muslim people that we know. There are neighbors, there are coworkers, etc. What's the difference? Is there a difference, etc.? It's not a clash of religions. It's a clash of civilization, period.
Well, I don't think true Muslims believe in killing people and raping children. I mean, I don't think all of them believe that. Do you?
Of course not. No, of course not. No.
And that's where I think what you're going to do tomorrow night is going to be really important.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Just to give people a background and then to raise to raise our awareness about where the Islamic threats are, because they are definitely here. Another thing that Biden did, and you know about this because somebody was released who murdered someone in Asheville in the Pisgah Forest. But Biden pardoned 39 felons on death row, and a lot of them were mass murderers. And these are the victims of one of these mass murders. I'm not putting the guy's face up, but there's a Soviet-born mobster named Yuri Mikhail, and another one, Jurilis Kadovas. And what they would do is have this scam where they held wealthy people hostage bilked their family for cash and ended up killing the people anyway. So these are the victims, the innocent victims of one. Yeah, I mean, can you imagine what these family members are going through?
It's horrible.
The murder of these two little girls was on death row. Now he's not on death row. And the kicker is that Biden said the litmus test for him is if he can tell they're sorry.
Oh, because he interviewed them all, right?
Yeah. And then this is the young girl who was killed in the Pisgah Forest up in Asheville. And
I think that guy went to Georgia too. He went on down to Georgia, or up from Georgia to the Pisgah Forest. Yeah.
Well, this is what I don't get. He pardoned largely serial killers.
Well, they don't see any, and I say they because, and let me say why I say they, because Roy Cooper did the same thing for 15 very brutal killers.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, a couple of them, one of them had been in prison for murder prior to committing the second murder. One of them set a woman on fire, stole her after he raped her, stole her car, set her house on fire, robbed her, of course. They're all brutal murderers, all of them. 15 of them, he commuted their sentences.
So I mean, Democrats are soft on crime, period. I can pretty much say that across the board. The only exceptions seem to be Fetterman and the U.S. Senate, and then my crush, Richie Torres, who's talking very tough about New York.
He needs to, because it needs some help.
Yeah, I mean, look, enough is enough. But I don't get it. Like, on your way out, you're going to do this? I mean...
Well, he also commuted the sentences for a bunch of teenager killers.
That's right.
So, I mean, here's what I don't understand. You're under 18.
And that's 13 members.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you get a sentence for life or for death row, and they commute your sentence or they pardon you. He pardoned people.
Well, yeah. And so this is an extension. I mean, I'd be remiss to say that we're in big trouble in this country for the next couple of weeks. God only knows what can happen.
And I don't think at least our state's over it because Cooper's gone.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we've got a very liberal, a very far left governor. I mean, he's a Soros governor. Let's just put it to you that way.
And Jeff Jackson's going to fall in line with him. He's going to do whatever he tells him to.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm sure. I have no doubt. So that's kind of what we're up against, folks. And we're going to, for those reasons, we're going to set our sights on working a lot at the federal level, which means that's your immigration, that's your campus radicalism, which we've got a lot of problems there, quite frankly.
We're going to try to keep you alert to be safe because of your surroundings.
Correct. Yeah, you're definitely going to have to be, because I'm telling you, if you're depending on the state to do anything, you're definitely not going to get it. The feds, I think we'll get some good luck with. Now, speaking of local issues, because a lot of issues are local, we're big fans of telling you to vote down the ballot first and then up. What the hell is going on in Buncombe County?
Well, so to me, this is a real travesty. And I hope the NC legislature does something about this, because Buncombe County has stated they're not going to waive or reduce any taxes for any properties that have been damaged or people that have lost their jobs. It's not just that you have property damage. There are people there that, we have an 8.8% unemployment rate in Asheville right now, in Buncombe County right now, the highest in the state. And they're not going to help them with any relief when it comes to taxes. So hopefully the North Carolina legislature will step in. But I don't know that a lot of people understand what this really means. If someone cannot pay their taxes and someone else pays them for them, that if they do that a few years in a row, they can quit claim and own that place. So this is another way to get a land grab. It's really sad.
Well, they said that we are conspiracy theorists for thinking that there could be schemes devised like that, right?
Yeah.
But Yeah.
I do want to point out, though, there is a guy, if you haven't heard of him, Sean Hendricks. He has a fund called Operation Shelter. He is taking payments. If you want to help anybody in Asheville or Buncombe County or Avery, any of the counties that are, not waiving, I think Buncombe is the only one that I know of that has come right out and said it. I think everybody else is going to work with you. He will gladly take your money to pay someone else's taxes. I personally donated $300 to their fund because if I can help someone keep their place and stop worrying, I'm going to do it. And $300 isn't much, but it's enough to make a difference if 3 or 4 or 5 people donate that.
Well, this scheme is kind of like the scheme that they'll do in neighborhoods where they want to gentrify, right? They will take the taxes and say, okay, instead of, $2,000 a year, it's going to be $5,000 a year. And they drive lower income folks out of their home, out of their
natives, truly natives. Yeah. I mean, if you do that in Hawaii, you drive the natives out of their homeland. If you do it in Western North Carolina, where people literally pass land down from generation to generation, you take their homes from them. You take that's really their identity, their family property.
Right. And we're not saying that this is a scheme, premeditated scheme to do that, because we don't know that. But I'll tell you, and one thing that we've always complained about here, what drives up the taxes at the local level is Medicaid expansion. Mm-hmm. So now that we've got 600,000 working well young adults on the roster, what happens is the state says, well, we're going to hold taxes at, 4.5% or whatever it is. We're going to hold taxes there. And by gum, we're not going to raise the taxes at all. Well, the bills are going up. They don't want you to know about it, right? So at the local level, that gets passed on.
I think there's another piece to it that people haven't paid attention to. Trump's not going to go for all this Medicaid expansion and all this stuff. He's going to start cutting plans. And here we are in North Carolina, where they just did this last year. And what's going to happen? They hired 300 people, opened a bunch of satellite offices. And as soon as these programs get cut, they're either going to have to be supported by the state or they're going to go.
That's going to be interesting because, in the bill, in the Medicaid expansion bill, guys, that the Republicans pushed, Republicans got paid for this. They got paid for this. In the Senate, Republicans in the Senate, sorry, I have no use for them. So we have a real problem here in the General Assembly.
We do.
But yeah, I mean, there's a trigger in there. I'm probably wrong on the number, but I'm going to tell you the gist of it. If the government stops paying 90%, so 90% is the reimbursement, I believe, something like that. The government, let's say Trump comes in and says, damn it, we're only paying 50. I can tell you a work requirement will be imposed. So all these folks that are not working, they're going to have to work. But if they drop down to 50%, the bill in North Carolina triggers that, okay, we stop that Medicaid expansion. But as you pointed out, it's hard to rush it down a free program.
When you have hospitals out here saying, let me sign you up for Medicaid if you don't have insurance, because that's what they're doing up here.
Hospitals are making money hand over fist.
So now they're opening mental health clinics to use under Medicaid expansion.
Yeah. Well, Blue Cross Blue Shield pretty much owns the General Assembly. The Hospital Association as well. I mean,
but Aetna's now, as of this January, Aetna is the new healthcare provider, and we're still in a lawsuit with Blue Cross Blue Shield because they don't believe that RFP was done correctly. So I think a lot of state workers are going to feel a big difference in their coverages starting this week.
I think so too, and it's going to be a big battle. And I'll tell you, we've got 4 new reps coming in that are going to be sworn in tomorrow on the Republican side, of course, that I have pretty high hopes for. The funny thing is that 3 of them are from the Cabarrus area. So Brian Echevarria, love the guy. We've had him on the show. Conservative guy, reminds me of Sonny Crockett from Miami Vice.
That's funny.
Great guy, very conservative, made his bones really with anti-DEI education stuff. Jonathan Allman, the same thing, both from Cabarrus.
Yep, I advocated hard for Jonathan. He's a young businessman with a young family, very hardcore Christian, which I appreciate. Very good guy.
Yeah, these are your socially conservative guys. They're going to fight for those cultural issues. So Brian is, stalwart against DEI, these policies. I think they're going to help us out a lot. John Blust is coming in from, I believe he's in the Greensboro area, Guilford. And interestingly enough, he's been in the House before, so we know what he's going to do. Fiscal conservative warrior, for sure. He's almost like Massey. So if you like that aspect of him, yeah, you'll love him. And he is very committed to helping us out with our agenda at universities to make sure that they're working for North Carolina students rather than foreign radicals. Grant Campbell. Yeah, Campbell is also from the Cabarrus area.
He's a nice guy too. I've talked to him several times. We should get him on the show. He's pretty nice guy. All of these gentlemen should come on the show.
Yeah.
Open invitation, any one of you.
Well, they will. Brian's been on. He's very entertaining. But we're gonna have to talk with these guys about, hey, you're gonna want bills passed. How are you going to work with the Senate? I'd really like to know that.
I would like to know how we're going to pass bills when we need to override them now that we don't have a supermajority.
Well, there's a guy named Cecil Brockman, and he's out of Guilford County. And interestingly enough, and sadly, actually, Democrats have made him out to be the boogeyman and the devil. And they're coming hard for him. And he's common sense.
Well, it's really interesting because his district is where I grew up, in Jamestown, that area. And I happened to look at the numbers there, which were astonishing to me, because that's the same place where Paul Newby's family's from, Pat McCrory's family's from. These are staunch Republicans. The numbers are 63% Democrat in that area. So it's surprising to me how well he did, and yet he votes very moderately.
He's a common sense guy. He reminds me a little bit of Richie Torres. He'll never be Richie Torres, but one
thing about him though is the reason why they're giving him such a hard time is because he's been out a lot. He's got some issues, and when he's not there, the vote goes down, right? So on the Democrat side, so honestly, stay a Democrat.
Well, no. This last veto override, they didn't need him at all.
No, they didn't need him, but that's why the Democrats are giving him a hard time, is that he's not there when they need him. And my thing is, okay, good. We now
a lot of other things too. They don't like. I don't think they like the fact that he votes our way every now and then.
Sometimes he does, but here's my bottom line. Now, because we don't have a supermajority, we've got to wait for people who go on vacation, are out sick, so that we actually can get the overrides done. And that's the dirty politics side that we saw during the budget a couple sessions ago. We're going to start seeing that again.
Yeah. We lost our supermajority, guys. So it's going to be
by one.
There's going to be some battles.
You can thank the people in District 1's NCGOP chair.
Let's talk about that. So when we look at the congressional races, it was pretty predictable. There weren't really many surprises. District 13, where I am, we knew that Brad Knott was going to win just by the way the district was cut. But District 1, Don Davis, Lori Buckout, tell me what you think happened.
Well, I think the Republicans shopped around for a candidate because they didn't like the candidate that they had. And they thought that if they got someone who was more like Greg Murphy, because he was the one that did the shopping, if they got someone like Greg Murphy, that they would be able to resonate. And here's the problem with that. First of all, you can't say you're a farmer if you're not a farmer. And that's what that district's all about. There's a lot of farming there. And you can't say you're a farmer if you're living in a $1 million house or two on the water and you don't go connect with farmers. And Don Davis does a great job connecting with farmers in that area, and they backed him. But here's the thing. And he's also very moderate. But even Ryan Gradesky in his podcast said Don Davis is a moderate. But here's what's interesting. Lori Buckout did not do as well as Sandy Smith did in the prior race. So backing another horse in the race doesn't work out for you all the time. She actually did worse.
So that district lost House member Frank Sussman, who he was a freshman up in the Granville area. And that really hurt us. We should not have lost that. I'm telling you. So do you think it's possible that Lori's performance may have dragged him down?
No, here's what I think happened, and I'll tell you why I don't think that. First of all, there's actually an oversight of 2 NCGOP districts that help each other right there in that little area. Well, the Harnett County people and the Roger Farina people did great. They did their part, but then there's Harvey's people over here, Harvey West, who's the NCGOP chair for District 1. All of his people did bad. So that's indicative of saying it's the district chair. It's he didn't get the vote out. He didn't do enough registration. He didn't do enough to pull it over the line, because Harnett County and that area did.
Right. Well, guys, there's stages in the election, and when there's not an election going on, you want to do something called expand the electorate, which all that means is registering people to vote. Right. It's what it's all about. And is it fun? No, but it's a must. You have to expand your electorate. I mean, it makes sense. People die, people move. You can't keep pulling from the same thing, and you can't depend on a national campaign like Trump to register your voters. And so there's a lot of infighting in District 1. Harvey West is a very unliked person.
He's volatile.
Yeah. And so leadership comes from the top. If you believe that, then that theory bears out. But I will tell you one thing. The Democrats, and we've said this all along, they worked their ass off in Eastern North Carolina. They lived there. And I mean, not just the reps there. Their top of the ticket was there frequently.
They spent a lot of money there.
The Council of State was there all the time. I mean, they went and they asked for the vote. So in other words, what I saw a lot of is we weren't pulling in the same direction. So the Council of State, people were saying, why didn't the GOP go out, et cetera? The Council of State races, that's your auditor, your labor, your superintendent, your governor. They are competing with funds and fundraising. Listen to me. They compete directly with the House caucus, GOP caucus, and the Senate caucus. Those are your money makers. When you talk about the NCGOP, not a money facet. So take that out. So you've got the House caucus and Senate that raises millions to keep that supermajority, right? And they look at it as siphoning money off of their efforts when the Council of State is raising money from the same well.
Correct.
So Council of State races, if candidates don't have PACs to depend upon, and many of them didn't, that is going to put them in jeopardy. So, I split with everyone else, blaming everything on the GOP, right?
It's not just the GOP.
Well, yes, right. We know that. But I want to tell you why I think that. Again, it all comes down to money. We had a couple of candidates on the Council of State that did not bring in your own money. And I'm telling you something, when you don't bring in your own money, it's kind of like I've run startups. I put in my own money because then somebody will donate and say, this guy believes in themselves, right? You're coming in there with a shirt off your back saying, hey, I'm putting my name on the ballot, I'm running. That is not the way to do it. And we had that. They were not professional.
No, and I have to say, in the defense of the candidates, one thing I think that we don't do well in North Carolina is really help candidates understand what they need to do to get to the next level.
No,
as an NCGOP, there can be some boot camps. We could do some more to help them, or their volunteers, or their fundraisers.
I'm going to push back because here's what I see. There are candidates that you can give them all the help that they want.
True.
And if they do not want help, then you are, as a consultant, screwed.
And I believe you because you know that for a fact. I've also seen candidates that, they're right all over the road, but they're always at the GOP. You already know you're getting their votes. Why are you going there? You're supposed to be going
there. Why am I always by the refrigerator when I work from home? It's my comfort zone.
Stop.
Right?
Slow.
Look, here's what I would say. I would say that funding is the big deal. And those candidates who do not understand the funding are going to be very disappointed. You want to secure all that stuff a year before you run. You really do. And you want to secure, and I'm sorry, but the reason why a candidate needs to bring money in from out of state, at least on our side, the Democrats already know this.
Do it.
Right. But listen, the reason why is because they're competing with these other things. The NCGOP is not a fundraising machine.
No, it's not. And here's the other thing. I don't know if you've ever heard this, but in Texas, they just tell candidates up front, if you're running and you're running for, let's say you're running for school board, you better have $250,000 ready. You have to have that ready. That's a school board race in Dallas. It goes incrementally up based on the race that they're running for. City council, county commissioner. They let them know. The Texas GOP just flat out says, do not get in this race unless you can raise this much money, because this is the starting point.
I think that's prudent advice, right? I think that's very prudent advice. I mean, to do what I was able to do, running a campaign, taking out an incumbent, et cetera, with no money, it just doesn't happen. And it certainly won't happen for the next phase. It doesn't happen unless you spent 3 years seeding the ground beforehand and building a coalition and letting everyone know. So, that's kind of the work that you have to do. If you know that you want to run someday, start today taking an interest in other people, for God's sakes, going to your clubs, that aren't GOP, right?
Right. And I want to say one thing. I want to shout out to this young man out in Arizona. His name is Nico. He's like 16 years old. He's already got a PAC. He's running for the GOP chair spot in Arizona. And here's what he said. I don't want to win. I want you to recognize that young people want to be a part of this process, and we're going to start working towards it. But to think about that, this young man has a PAC he's had since he was 14 years old. He raises money for candidates, and anybody can have a PAC. You need to understand the laws and rules around it.
Yeah, get yourself a treasurer.
To be so self-determined at that age, I just want to shout him out.
Yeah, no, that's great thinking. So, well, listen, we're running a little bit behind. I wanted to get to a couple of things that were in that big relief bill, and I wanted you to break it down. The first thing, just briefly go down this. What were the election changes? Because people concisely want to know, what happened here?
So basically, we gave the power of the election board. We moved it from the governor to the state auditor. That's one of the biggest things that took place in this bill, is that we moved the power of who owns and controls the North Carolina State Board of Elections. We moved that to the auditor. That's the big one. And then the other one is we had an amendment, a constitutional amendment that I can't read, that basically said we're going to only have U.S. citizens vote in our elections. And photo ID, we've already had that. That was already a requirement. But here's the interesting thing about the citizens voting. How are they going to make sure they're U.S. citizens? What are they going to use to make sure we're a U.S. citizen?
The Board of Elections, which, guys, before this change with the bill that was vetoed about 3 weeks ago, before that change, the governor would get his appointees, right? And then I think the House and Senate would get some. No. But they are unaccounted for. Now, the way it works is if you get pissed off about the way it's done and there's no accountability, you can blame Dave Bolak. We tell him weekly, we're going to blame your ass. We have somebody to vote out now. So
I think the bigger thing is very relevant to what we're seeing with the Judge Griffin race right now.
Tell us about that now that we're into it. Supreme Court, Battle Royale. By the way, I just want to say, Margot, I got 6 phone calls today. 3, all Republicans. 3 said, maybe we should just play nice and forget about it. No. And 3 were like, we are not going to give this up because laws have been broken. What do you think?
Well, so I think this case is a good illustration about why we need to move that board from the governor and change it up so it's not a majority of dumb Democrats, because they're dumb. We have laws on the books that state, and the federal government does too. You must have either the last 4 digits of your social security number, or you must have your driver's license number on as part of your voter roll. And so 60,000 ballots came in without one of those 2 things. And now those votes are up for contention because Judge Griffin has contested that because they didn't have what is required by the law, they should not count. And the Board of Elections says, oh, no, we should make them count. Well, here's the deal. Either we're going to follow the law or we're not. And if we're not going to follow the law, then we're lawless. And I think that's where people are looking at the challenge. And I also think that's why Dave Bullock's in a good position.
Dave Bullock is our auditor, guys.
60,000. So let me talk to that comment. The comment is how could you possibly overlook 60,000 votes? Well, if you're talking about 100 counties where the county is responsible for their ballots, and those counties who did not do the right thing, let them go through, and the state board of elections didn't go after them or hold them accountable either.
I bet I can guess the counties.
I bet you can. And here's the other interesting thing. At midnight on the election night, he was winning. So all these ballots, most of them are mail-in ballots, but there was
let me verify this. Guys, there's supposed to be a provisional ballot. Let me tell you why it's important. When you have a provisional ballot, I'm going to hold this up. Okay. It's my in other words, I'm going to vote. I don't have the right procedure, but that allows
whatever.
Yeah. But that allows some due process there, right? Some process. So there's two due process things. It's supposed to be provisional ballots. They didn't, number one. And number two, this is what I learned today. All these people had the opportunity to do something called curing their ballot.
They did.
Curing their ballot, which means they're notified, hey, we need an ID on this. We need a signature, whatever it is. And they said, screw it.
Well, and so funny because I watched some of the interviews the Democrats had, of course. Well, I didn't know what that postcard meant. Well, if you get a postcard from your local election board, I don't care what it says. You better read it.
This isn't nursery school. It's time to grow up.
Right. Right. So here's the big thing.
So in other words, I don't want to hear my vote doesn't count because you got something in the mail that says your vote counts
if you come in and fix it.
Finish the job.
Right. And here's the other part. Even after that, the GOP, we had people out chasing ballots to help these people. So it wasn't just like they got a postcard. There were actually people in every county calling, going, hey, you need to come in and cure your ballot. So I don't have any sympathy for Miss Riggs. I just don't. So, you're either going to follow the law or we're lawless.
Yeah. And for a judge to be advocating the law to be set aside so she can win, it's unseemly. Right. It's just unseemly, but it's part and parcel of what she's done. She's advocated for political things on the bench. You're not supposed to do that. She doesn't do it. We need the law followed. Let me tell you. So where it is now is the Supreme Court has issued a stay. Why
the North Carolina Supreme Court has issued
Carolina? Why have they done that?
They've done that because when they've issued a stay because they're going to review the case. And there was only one dissenter. And of course, she was the Democrat, Ms. Earl, on the bench. So here's what's going to happen, y'all. I believe there are people on our North Carolina Supreme Court that realize that we need to follow the law. They may tick a lot of people off, but here's what the truth is. They're going to follow the law and they don't care what you think. And you can't just get them off. They're going to do what we passed as legislation and the federal laws say.
That's what That's what a constitutionalist does. Last time I checked, and that's what we.
I'm not in the camp with those three people that called you that said we just need to let it go. No, we don't.
Yeah, and by the way, why are you calling me? Because they know I'm going to talk about it. All right, so here's a couple of other things that were in the law that you may not have known. So check this out. If there are schools, Opportunity Scholarship gives, I should know this, $7,600, roughly that, to families that want to take their kids to a private school, which is a great option for a lot of families because schools in some areas are not good. All right, so this brings accountability. This says, all right, so now if a school gets an Opportunity Scholarship, they need to take a standardized test that's going to be decided from the state. I think that is a good idea because a lot of people on our side, they're worried about accountability. I think a standardized test.
I think it's funny.
It's competitive. I like it. Okay. So
I do too, because when they start smoking these public schools.
Let's hope so. Here's an important one. And thank God that it's being done. It has taken the centralized function of disaster and emergency preparedness for schools and safety out of the DPI. There was a lady that was running it, literally like a church lady librarian. It was absolutely terrible. No school. I mean, I'm telling you,
That's
no
scary.
School, no schools.
These are our kids.
Let me finish. There's half of the schools, Margot, that would not turn in the disaster plan every year that Truitt was there. And I was riding her ass on everything, really. But safety was my big one. So taking it and putting it in a law enforcement agency.
Good.
Like the SBI.
Good.
Don't you? I mean, that is so. I think once this gets up and running, we can sleep a little better because Mo Green has advocated that he wants to make discipline even lower the standards than where it is now. Charter school appeals. So taking this away from Mo Green, he has stated he is not a fan of charter schools. And so really, if he's already biased against them, then he shouldn't have veto power of a charter school opening. And so that was also embedded in it. That was some educational stuff.
Good. I think, you know what, if they set the precedent that the disaster plans should go through the SBI for schools, they should do it for every county. That's the problem with what happened up here in Western North Carolina. There's no centralized repository where somebody reviews and makes sure that if you're crossing a county line, I think all disasters should go through the SBI. Everyone.
Well, a disaster in terms of a school shooting. That's what I meant.
Absolutely. But I'm talking about any kind of disaster.
And by the way, we're working on some things for the state, our priorities. We're going to share that with you. One of them is to make sure that we pass a mandatory law that every teacher before they're hired has a background check. Now, that doesn't prevent a lot of the teachers that are perverts. They don't have a record
because they
get access to children at the school.
I can't believe we don't have that already. That blows my mind.
Many states do. And as you're well aware, Catherine Truitt kept her office, kept pedophiles on the certified teachers list. I called their attention to it. And I was the bad guy, don't you know?
I love being the bad guy.
If
we're doing the right thing, how can you be the bad guy? Telling the truth
wear it well.
Telling the truth is an absolute defense.
Yeah. Believe me, we know. So yeah, I mean, we would have sex offenders who were on there. Even Catherine Truitt even told us, and this is why that I was so hell bent on taking her out, is that she would say, "Oh, everyone is. I mean, the guys have been arrested, admitted it, gave up their licenses, and everyone has a right to due process. Really, even after they voluntarily given up their license already."
This is crazy talk.
Yeah. She was a danger. And by the way, I don't expect her to be a whole hell of a lot different than Mo. So you're going to see the same. Yeah, you're going to see the same things. Okay. So this is our delegation up in Congress. We've got some expectations. We got some new guys there. So Pastor Mark Harris, I have very high hopes for. I have very high hopes for. And it's just because I'm biased and I know them.
I want to see Addison McDowell do something because Mark Walker walked away from that race and he could have won it. So
Addison McDowell has brought in
yourself.
He's brought in some good people and he's made some good promises. But I can tell you what we want. Our team is going to be working a little less with North Carolina K through 12. So I just want to announce that we're going to move on to the national security threat that is our college campuses.
Absolutely.
We have good information that very dangerous things are going on there that we're paying for. It's getting in the way of our students' learning, and we're going to need to go and on immigration, mass immigration, or mass
deportation.
Mass deportation. Sorry, somebody's going to clip that and maybe the next Kamala Harris, for Christ's sake. Yeah.
Well, we have a lot of people that are actually teaching our children hate in universities that shouldn't even be in universities.
Well, they shouldn't, and we shouldn't be paying for it. Why are we paying for this? Why? And everyone wants to know why. A lot of people don't have college degrees. Then they start making money.
Let's just talk about one example. Can we talk about that gentleman at UNC? Because here's what I want to say. Do you know how hard it is to get into UNC?
Okay. Yeah, tell us a little bit on the acceptance rates. I don't know, but it's one of the best public schools.
It is one of the best public schools. I think it's 1 in 10 in North Carolina even gets reviewed. And if you're from out of state, it's even higher. But here we have a guy who's from another country.
Let me tell you about this guy. This guy is the head of the student union, okay, a grad student from Jordan. Hates America, hates Jews, has made it clear. He terrorizes professors. How do I know? I've had several leftist professors who call me and say, I don't really like you, but thank God for you that you're shedding a light. This guy literally terrorizes the hell out of students. I've talked to dozens of them, professors. This son of a bitch. Yeah, this son of a bitch put together a vote, harassed people to have a vote for the student union, a vote of no confidence for our brand new
Chancellor
Lee Roberts. Had a vote of no confidence. I don't know that that's happened in recent memory on the day the guy was installed. The guy is an Islamic subversive from Jordan. He's here at the pleasure, I would imagine, of an F1 visa. I don't know if he's a naturalized citizen, but even if he is, he's breaking the Immigration and Naturalization Act. And you may say, Sloan, what do you mean? He leaves Student for Justice for Palestine, which is a terrorist group. And check out what he's doing, what he does to people. Putting his hands on people. Supports Islamic terror. Yes, I've used some salty language. This guy from Jordan is able to go over there and assault Americans, intimidate the hell out of Americans, be they professors or our young men and women over there,
or North Carolinians. Let's just put it where it is. You come from another country and you harass people from the state you're a guest in,
and the country
you're a guest in.
Now, yeah, absolutely. So he was being investigated for this. This is the handiwork of them.
Is this at the ROTC building?
It is. It is. And by the way, this is pretty routine. This vandalism at our crown jewel education,
oldest school in America.
Yeah, our crown jewel of our university education system, writing this shit.
Public school.
Yeah, I mean, he's being the papers reported that I think he's being looked at. This is what they build. By the way, this is what you're seeing there. That is Hamas colors right there.
What does this represent?
What does it represent?
Well, I can't read what it says underneath.
It's advocating for wiping Jews off the face of the map, and it's advocating for terror. Now, you may say a terror attack at a university. Well, yes, sadly, in 2006, this Islamic guy, and he did it in the name of Allah. He rented a Jeep, sound familiar? Rented a Jeep for the specific purpose of running down and killing as many students as he could, and ran over 9 students and got 33 years in jail. And don't tell me that Islamic terrorism can't happen at UNC. By the way, these pictures are taken either in Charlotte, Fayetteville, or Greensboro. Okay. These are the pictures that we've gathered. These are, this is in North Carolina. Mass deportations now. This is not allowed.
Yeah.
This is a threat.
Well, Sloan, we're getting toward the end, but I want to talk about one thing for a second that you really haven't said. And that is, can you talk about what that guy's wearing on his head and what it means? Because I don't think a lot of people understand that. You do, because you're Jewish. I'm not. You had to educate me on this. I really think people need to understand what that means.
I'm so glad you brought that up. And by the way, it's not just because I'm Jewish. A lot of Jewish people, they may not know. And sadly, and we've talked about this, some are sympathetic to it. A lot of people, we know what it's like in the GOP. Some GOP are sympathetic to not being liked. It's no different, right? By the way, we're having a show tomorrow night at 8 with a former Muslim who is an expert at all this stuff, and I want him to explain. So you're seeing, this is a good example. Do you see the guy, the scumbag really on the right? He's wearing a red keffiyeh. A keffiyeh is a swastika. Okay. And you're seeing the animal on the left wearing a black one. A black one was popularized by the PLO. Now, Bedouins wore it, in the desert years ago. Yasser Arafat, once he started the PLO, he made it a thing, right? I mean, that's like that's like the swastika. Okay. It was a Hindu symbol until it was repurposed into something else. And when you see a red one, and you won't see them very often, that's a Jordanian.
So the idea the Jordanians have their own versus everyone else?
Yes. And now let's go right back to talking about the 11 terrorists that Biden is releasing to Jordan, who's taking them. You see?
Yes, I do see. Sadly, I do see. And can they wear those when they're in Jordan?
You know what? It's almost like you're reading my mind. I'm going to tell you this. If you wear a keffiyeh in Egypt as a woman, sadly, you will be beaten. Okay, that the keffiyeh is that black and white or red fishnet pattern, very distinctive. If you wear a keffiyeh in Saudi Arabia, you will be deported. Okay, if you wear it in Egypt, you very likely will face penalties. And why is that? Because Arabs know this. Arab nations know something very well. They know that when you're advocating for Palestine, it's really a faux argument. You are advocating for bringing down a country. The last thing they want is another Arab Spring, these Arab leaders. So they know that this is just a pretext for bringing down a country and revolution. They understand that. And that's why you saw no Arab nation willing to take in any Gazans. None.
Well, I kind of want to talk about how that affects people in America because, I'm in the airport in Michigan, you see it a lot. But then you could see it at a grocery store and try to tell other people, and it could cause you problems.
Yeah.
So just be careful. Be careful people are not educated. They don't understand what that means. I didn't understand what it means. I never knew until Sloan educated me on it.
We know what a keffiyeh, we all know what a black keffiyeh is because we've been seeing them. I mean, these assholes are teaching us what it means.
Right.
We can't go to a parade without seeing it.
You can't get on an airplane.
We can't watch a football game. Yesterday, if you're in New York, you can't go to the hospital without seeing it. It's not my fault they exist. These guys are showing you what a keffiyeh means.
They're telling you who they are.
They want to take over this country, period, point blank. I'm not saying it. They are.
True. What a great way to kind of segue into tomorrow's show. Educate people.
Tomorrow at 8 o'clock. Yeah. And I'm going to tell you what, Margot and I really believe what we're going to do in 2025. We're going to go all in and we're going to report things that people are not going to have, quite frankly, the stones to report.
There's a lot of it.
There's a lot. But I think we're going to go into what's called the blue ocean. And that is going where others are not. So tomorrow night, Dan Barami, he's a director at New Nation. Let me tell you about a brave guy. When you are an apostate in the Muslim community, you have a very difficult road. So tomorrow night on our X channels, on NC Political T, on yours, if you let me, and on mine, going to be and we're going to do reruns and we're going to invite questions. He's going to tell you where the Palestinian flag comes from. He's going to tell you that, the difference, and the goal is to be, the goal is a bridging to understanding. Seasoned journalist, 39 years in the business.
Friend Jake Novak.
Our friend Jake Novak will be here on Thursday, getting into a little bit of just kind of, you know, what all this means for North Carolina. I don't think you guys know the threat that's here within, but North Carolina is an incubator for this stuff.
Well, I can't wait to have Jake on the show. He gets on Punch Bowl every day almost, and he talks about the things that we all want to talk about. But the other thing that Jake does is he's very insightful on if there's a movie or a book that you want to know about a subject, he knows it. And to listen to him talk about his father and what he taught and did in colleges and universities, he's just a wealth of knowledge. So I'm looking forward to that.
We're going to have a lot of guests on that are way smart. I mean, our job, our goal, we've talked about it, is to get people on this show that are way smarter than any of us. Right?
Yeah. And to teach you. Our goal is so that you get informed and you come to the show really wanting to meet someone new and talk about something that you never thought you'd talk about. I mean, I never in my life thought I'd be on a show with Sloan talking about kafias. I'm not sorry that I am. I think it's a great thing. I want children to understand what that means, because it's not just about Sloan and I. It's about the average everyday American who goes in a grocery store and doesn't know what that means until they see it.
Right. And I want you to know my goal is not to adrenalize people against any particular person. Look, I'm a Jew, and I've endured incredible anti-Semitism, especially since October 7th. The last thing that I want to foster is that towards anyone for any reason. We need to bridge our understanding and our awareness, period. That is the goal with everyone. And by the way, even with Democrats, even with people that think differently than us, it's time to stop, looking at people as the enemy. And once we actually understand where they're coming from, I mean, we are never going to agree with them. It makes us better able to have less fear and to be assertive.
You don't have to agree with them to understand their position.
Yes. Yeah. And you become a lot more relaxed.
I'm not saying it is.
Like, I mean, I'm nonplussed by most of the. Mario, you can tell people. She'll call me and say, "Oh my God, I can't believe." I'm like, yeah. I mean, I'm not
very unemotional.
I mean,
it makes me look really emotional.
Yeah, I get fired up, but yeah, sometimes it's performative. But yeah, I mean, once you understand all this stuff, and that's our goal, to bring this to you. And by the way, we are a sponge. We're going to soak up everything that you guys want. We're going to do spaces too. Yes, we're going to have Roxanne.
We will have Roxanne Wetzel
Erica,
on.
We're going to
talk about GOP and how the GOP and what's coming up in the next 3 months. We'll have conventions by the end of March. Every different county is going and announcing them. So we'll have Roxanne Wetzel will talk about that and what that means and how you can participate. It's good to see you, Brent, from Canada. And
Brent, the question is, who doesn't love Margot?
I did see Derek Evans in there, and I want to make sure and say a shout out to him because I'd love to have him on. He's a J6er, lives in West Virginia, running for a race. If you don't know it, I went to West Virginia University, so I always have to shout out for the Mountaineers.
Hey, listen, family lives in West Virginia. I was there last week. Went skiing in Pennsylvania, by the way. Let me tell you something. I didn't fall because my ego was too big. Do you know how hard it is skiing on sheer ice and not falling?
Didn't I tell you? Why are you guys going there? Didn't I say that? Well, I said, why are you
I was almost in a full body cast. Every muscle in your body is like,
You're lucky you still have ankles, because I mean, I have cracked my legs on those.
It's not easy. Yeah, it's not easy. But listen, we love you guys. We're here for you. We're serving you. Let us know. Good, bad, the ugly. And we're going to start our
Thursday at 8 p.m. We're back on our regular schedule, Tuesday and Thursday, 8 p.m. We're not going to do Saturdays until it's election season. So you got a good year off.
Damn. Okay, good. But Friday nights, we're going to do spaces. I think we're going to start.
Absolutely. We'll do some spaces.
Okay. Well, and I think 9:00 is a good time.
Absolutely.
Join me tomorrow at 8:00. What else did I want to say? I think we're done. And by the way, I dressed up for you.
I know. I dressed up for you, Nordstrom's. Thank you. Hey, listen, We're on Spotify now, right? Are we on iHeartRadio too? Where else are we?
You're working me harder than a Hebrew slave, honey. I think I'll have it all up tomorrow. But it's all getting kicked off. But the goal is to have us on podcast, at least on 2 networks, so that you can pop it in. Okay. If you're vacuuming, doing whatever, like I do, and you listen to it, that's the goal.
That's awesome. I have to thank Sloan. She's done all the hard work like that. I really do appreciate her. And we're really excited about this year's lineup. We've got a lot of people that have already said they're coming on. We're not going to tell you who, but we'll see you soon.
Listen, we got people calling us and wanting to be
That's
on.
true. Thanks,
Man.
Sloan.
Okay, well, check out my outro, because here's our brand new outro. And then, by the way, if you don't like it, wait a week.
Don't say anything to Sloan.
Don't say anything, because it's been hours. Okay? Love you guys. Here's our outro.
That's a wrap on today's NC Political Tea. We hope you're leaving sharper, spicier, and ready to take on the political craziness in the Tar Heel State. If you loved what you heard, or even if it made you mad, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share this show with your friends, family, and that one coworker who just needs the truth. Follow us on social media to stay in the loop and get your daily dose of conservative fire. And remember, here in North Carolina, the grassroots grows stronger when we stand together. Until next time, keep the faith, keep up the fight, and don't let the left water down your tea. This is NC Political Tea, where we spill it like it is.
That was awesome. All right, take us out, because you got to